Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Runepanel, you can call me Rune, and today we're talking about Avowed. Again. Now this is a follow-up video on my first impressions video. So if you want a video that covers the basics of the game and has a fresher feel of a, first time playing, check that video out first. I will be linking it in the description. This video is going to be a bit more detailed. So, here are my thoughts on the game so far, and I've played it for, let's say, about 10 or more hours. And I've cleared the whole first area, so every side quest, every, nook and cranny, I've checked almost everything. And I've done every quest related to it, every main story mission, and I've moved on to the new area and I've played a bit in that area too. So, I still stand on what I said in my first video. As I said, check it out if you haven't. The game is still really fun, it's gorgeous and it's really engaging still. But I've been seeing a lot of people talk quite negatively about the game on different platforms. I won't be going into any details about what has been said and who has said what, but there certainly is negativity out there and I have a hard time grasping it. Because for me, this game is great. It's one of the better games I've played in several years, especially being single-player fantasy RPG, right? And let me explain to you how I see this game, because it's not the best game I've ever played, certainly not. But think of it as a meal, right? It's a really good and tasty meal. Like, you really enjoy this food, it's delicious. But it wasn't made with the finest ingredients or by the best cooks. And if you bought the fancy stuff and maybe if a pro made it for you, then it would have been way better. But it's still really damn fucking good, for what it is. And that is Avowed. I'm currently really engaged with a lot of parts of the game, especially the combat. Maybe it's because I'm playing the mage class, but it feels really varied with all the spells and the way I can play around. I can go from being a caster mage to being like a battle mage going full melee. It's really fun and entertaining with almost every fight. The only issue is when I find like only a single enemy and they're kinda just a little bit spongy because I'm playing on hard. So I'm just sitting there just left click spamming or whatever, letting him die. But if there's anywhere between 2 or 10 enemies, the game gets hectic, super fun, and it's a good time, right? It's a blast. Bosses are all cool looking and fun to fight. They visually look unique. And I've yet to see a copy of a boss so far. Usually they're kinda the same in gameplay wise though. They have like an AoE or a close quarter attack and that's kinda it. But they scale in difficulty, so that kinda keeps me on my toes, so I don't really mind the too much repetitiveness. Oh, and let me mention the settings in the game real quick. The game has some features / settings to make the combat a bit smoother and easier. Like it pushing the player towards an enemy when attacking, like it vacuums you to the enemy, or it auto aligns the camera when dodging, and other small tweaks that make the game feel quote unquote smooth. Well, I turned all of these settings off. I didn't like them personally, and to me the combat felt way better after I turned them off. I'll be showing you them on screen and how to get to them. It's super simple. You just go into the settings, then you go to, I think it's the game tab or the UI tab, I'm not sure, you'll be seeing it on screen at least. And I just basically turned everything off. Having full control of my camera and the movement and my playstyle without, being realigned very sneakily feels way better than before. And I don't think I really noticed it until I turned all these settings off. It just somehow felt that everything was smoother suddenly, which is really good. If the game feels janky for you and you don't like the way it plays, try tweaking these settings, maybe they are the culprit. But back to the actual gameplay. Your choices and actions, they all have consequences. This was one of the things I saw people kind of complain about, that nothing matters. This is not the case for this game, and it's very clear that your actions really have consequences to the story and the world around you. Several instances, I won't mention all of them, but more than I expected, have showed me that I've changed the world somehow because of my actions. Now I don't know for certain, obviously, I need to do a whole new playthrough, but I know for a fact that some things already changed. And there were moments where the game gave me a choice and I thought, oh, okay, whatever, I do this because of the character I'm playing, like I'm role-playing something, whatever, I'll pick this choice. But later that choice has a consequence that I realize, and I was like, what, really? For example, in the story, you have a choice to either kill this kind of important character or not. This person is affiliated with this group of people that they're kind of unhappy with you, they don't like you. So if you kill this character, later on they will kill some NPC that you know about. I'm not going into detail, I don't want to spoil anything, but they literally hang the guy from a tree with a letter on it saying, you killed one of our own, your actions have consequences. Watch out, basically. You know, it's a warning. Don't fuck around, because we're not fucking around. And that's really sick. That's really, really cool. On Tutorial Island, there's an NPC in a cage, right? You can either let them out and they'll join you and help you fight, or you can keep them locked in the cage, and if you keep them locked in the cage, later on, when you do the tutorial boss, that lady will join the boss's side into trying to kill you. But if you rescue her, she will join your side and fight the boss with you. You know, your actions have consequences. You have a choice of talking your way out of problems or using violence or nasty things or being an asshole. Like a good RPG, you have the choice of how you want to approach the situation and what character you're playing and how you want to play the game. This is good fucking game design. It makes the game and the world shape around you. It feels alive, and it's the same with the environment and adventuring. Just exploring and walking around you, you can find a bunch of cool places where you can see that people have been, lived in. They're abandoned now because of the issues in the world right there where you are. You find hidden resources and enemy camps you encounter, and you can clear them out for XP and loot. And it feels alive. It's never a dull moment in a good way, right? It's not you're not getting overwhelmed constantly, but it's never too much downtime either. There are puzzles, there are enemies, and not the least, your companions keeping you company and giving you some tidbits about the environment they're in and, you know, point of interest. They talk about some small things sometimes between each other. But here's the issue. The companions are kinda shit too. And sadly, this is my biggest complaint so far. So I've only met 3 of them. There's 4 total, and I've only had 2 in my party. I barely met the 3rd one. So I can't really speak for the female companions so far, but you start with the 2 male ones. A dwarf and this blue thing, I don't even know what their race is called, but this blue fantasy creature. They are a bit, I don't know, boring, let's say. I have a hard time putting exactly what I think about them, but you know, they feel like they're supposed to have good character and personality, because as you play the game, they unravel and their story is interesting to some degree, right? You're kinda interested in what they have to say and what they're talking about, but it's the voice acting. And the voice acting feels kinda shit, and when they speak, it just sounds bland. And currently, there is, you know, no one better than the other, and they all just feel subpar. This makes me kinda sad, because in games like these with parties, I love to have these companions, and I'm so interested and curious of what they have to say and what their personality is, because again, they're your companions, they have a deeper meaning to the story. But these guys are like, why are you following me? Oh, I don't know, it's convenient. What do you mean? What's your purpose? Oh, I don't know. Like, what? What? In like Baldur's Gate 3, the companions have some sort of meaning. You're all like zapped in the head, right? There's some sort of connection to you. In this game, it doesn't feel like that. And for example, Dragon Age games, except the Veilguard, we don't talk. Veilguard is not a Dragon Age game, it's an abomination. But the other Dragon Age games, the companions in those, they are phenomenal. They are my favorite characters and companions in all video games probably, and is the best I've ever seen. And well, of course, sometimes they're really dog awful, but you know, you can't win them all. And companions in those games, they're interesting. They have a reason to follow you. Maybe because you're charismatic, or for a reason or another, they're with you. And then you bond somehow, and maybe you romance, or you don't, you become good bros. Whatever, there's a bonding between those characters. Yes, there is a bit of that in this game too, but it feels like a B-tier version of, say, like a Dragon Age companion. And it's especially the voice acting. It's kinda shit. And I don't know how they manage that, because the rest of the game has really good voice acting. Every NPC around you usually sounds really good, especially like the quest giving NPCs. They are very interesting, and they sound genuine when you speak to them. The world's voice quality is really impressive, and I'm surprised how they nailed that, but they failed at the companions. Again, this is just my opinion really, and maybe you think differently and feel differently, but this is the way I see it, and yeah, that's my interpretation, right? So if you think differently, let's talk about it in the comments. But so far, in general, the world feels really alive. The combat is still fun after, several hours, and I'm getting new and more abilities, and I'm still using the same old ones that I started with. So, that's good. And the story is actually pretty interesting, and game mechanics are good, so like, I'm not really complaining, because the few complaints that I have about the game, they aren't really that bad, because majority of the things in the game are actually really fun. It's a really fun game, and at least for me, right? But yeah, that's kind of all for me, guys. Playing the game further only affirms my beliefs that Avowed is a solid game. And yeah, I made my first video about 2-3 hours in, maybe even less. And playing it more, I'm just sure that it's a good game. I'd give it, say, an 8 out of 10, maybe a 9. An A tier game just below S tier. Now, I don't like doing tiers and numbers, whatever, even though I love tiers and numbers, but just to make sure that you understand that it's a pretty damn solid game. And unless we get a masterpiece this year, as I said before, this might be my game of the year. But again, we're early into the year. You never know what's gonna happen. There's a bunch of games coming out that we're gonna be making videos on, so keep your eyes out. But again, as always, let's chat in the comments, alright? Game is releasing very soon. Are you gonna get it? Again, I'm releasing this video before the game has released, so it's a bit of a pre-release review. But if you've played the game, I'd love to know what you think of it so far. And if you agree or disagree with my things, and just let me know. I'm always interested in your guys' opinion as much as I am of my own. As always, thank you for watching and listening to me yapping. If you liked the video, do leave a like and subscribe. It always cheers me up. And of course, I will see you in the next video.